when you're facing an absolutist dictator like George W. Bush, he's going to do what his God has told him he's going to do.
He's a man of morals and integrity. He's full of spit and vinegar, and he's got guts. And he's got a date with Mount Rushmore. Let me put it that way.
I think this is a personal quest, and there's no telling what his motives are because you're talking with someone who's not healthy in the mind or in the soul.
The United States of America has the sovereign authority to use force in assuring its own national security. That duty falls to me as Commander-in-Chief. By the oath I have sworn, by the oath I will keep. In a free Iraq, there will be no more wars of aggression against your neighbors, no more poison factories, no more executions of dissidents, no more torture chambers and rape rooms. The tyrant will soon be gone. The day of your liberation is near.
I am an Iraqi. This land is mine. From the Gulf to the ocean, Iraq is righteous. No presence for Americans or Zionists on our land. God's willing because it's righteous.
The danger is clear. Using chemical, biological, or one-day nuclear weapons obtained with the help of Iraq, the terrorists could fulfill their stated ambitions and kill thousands or hundreds of thousands of innocent people in our country or any other.
Morganton, Georgia, you're on C-SPAN.
I definitely agree with the president 100%. How many 9/11s is it going to take for us to stand up for our rights?
Iraq has nothing to do with September 11th.
My theory is if they come over here September 11th, started on us, why can't we go over and finish it? Anybody that disagrees needs to pack their shit and get the hell out.
It blows my mind that you are led sheep. There has been no ties that have been proven by the government.
The security of the world requires disarming Saddam Hussein now.
God bless President Bush. He's doing the right thing. That's a monster over there, and people just don't know what risk that they have. He does have weapons of mass destruction.
Saddam Hussein would love to have nuclear power and would love to drop it on us.
Who the hell has more weapons of mass destruction than us? How arrogant are we in the eyes of the other countries?
If you look at our own nuclear program, cities were built for this. Oak Ridge, Tennessee, Los Alamos, New Mexico, cities in Washington. To actually make nuclear weapons is very difficult.
In the 20th century, some chose to appease murderous dictators whose threats were allowed to grow into genocide and global war. In this century, when evil men plot chemical, biological, and nuclear terror, a policy of appeasement could bring destruction of a kind never before seen on this earth. This will not be a campaign of half measures. I want Americans and all the world to know that coalition forces will make every effort to spare innocent civilians from harm.
We couldn't tell if that was somebody looking out the window or not. So we just put a shot through the window.
Free nations have a duty to defend our people.
God and country, baby. This is why we're doing this.
And may God continue to bless America.
I think that he's got this kind of crazed religious belief, and that rationalizes it. You wrap Jesus around him, and you'll kill anybody for that.
I believe that he got into this office because there were a lot of people asking God.
What's going down was actually prophesied back in Isaiah about the falling of the towers would start basically the end times. And what's going to happen in end times is whoever goes against Israel will be judged, and whoever is aligned with Israel will be blessed. And so in these end times, it's very important for people to align themselves with Israel, because literally, you know, in just a matter of years, we're going to see the whole book of Revelations just unfold. It's already begun.
George Bush is a godless man. The precedent has been set that an absolutist in the White House believes that he can dictate moral terms to the entire world and decide for everyone else who should live and who should die.
There's no proof even still. The United States Army has not found any evidence that there are weapons of mass destruction.
I mean, we're hitting them with many times the firepower of September 11.
We're doing a heck of a job of alienating people, proving that we are the biggest, baddest assholes. We're creating lots of enemies.
I got some news for you. The world already hates us, okay? It's time for them to fear us. Come on, wouldn't it be great if we could stop every conflict just by doing this?
People, they already hated us. So their evil is always like a bully. He preys on the weak. So when you show your strength, you actually repel that evil. So I don't think it'll come back to haunt us any worse than what they already would have done.
Our policies throughout the world, and especially in the Middle East, have been terribly biased against the Arab world. They've been terribly affected by our need and desire to control oil resources. And this is just one blatant, obvious example of that, and in fact an augmentation of everything that groups like Al-Qaeda are criticizing us for. And so it seems impossible to believe that this war could do anything but inflame terrible anti-American sentiment.
President George Bush gave Saddam and his boys 48 hours to get out of Dodge. And at the same time, the newspaper said that the terror alert had been raised to orange. Seems to be a one-to-one correlation. When you are aggressive, you can expect that aggression is going to spread. It's like an epidemic.
This war is probably going to increase terrorist attacks against the United States, possibly create a situation in which our lives are an ongoing series of terrorist attacks. It may become like Israel and the Palestinians. It could become sort of a daily part of our lives.
A leadership position requires that you be respected, not liked. So there's a penalty for leading, and that is a lot of folks won't like you. And I don't really care, as long as they respect us, as long as we are worthy of their respect, and that means doing the right thing.
I think the defensive war could be justified. But I certainly don't believe an attack is ever justified, an aggressive attack.
In the early 21st century, what do you wait to happen? Do you wait for chemical warheads to land in Tel Aviv? Do you wait for the beginnings of another Holocaust?
If you like to think that they're a threat because there's a maniac who's in control.
He was horrible to his people, murdering people for experimentation.
My fear is that the Iraqi people, if Saddam Hussein is killed and removed, will be exchanging one maniac for another, George W. Bush.
A whole host of polls during the last 6 months in Europe has shown that the majority of Europeans believe that the United States is more of a threat to world peace, than Saddam Hussein.
What's really sad is that Saddam Hussein was given a chance to surrender, and he chose not to. So he really killed his own people. It's sad, but he knew judgment was coming.
And that is one of the tragic things about having a war and having to get into a war, is there's always going to be a certain amount of attrition, and nobody wants it. But it happens, and you have to say to yourself, though, how many more would die?
What would it take for him to literally hold the world hostage? Right. He could come to America with a nuclear bomb and say, you know what, you give me $40 billion or I'm gonna blow up your city.
I would submit that the most terrifying weapons of mass destruction are fear and hatred.